welcome to today's LOL Esports Roundup. We're going to cover the games that took place many hours ago in Swiss Stage Round 1 for Worlds 2023, and then preview tomorrow's round of games. Predictions: I'm 14-7 at Worlds, went 6-2 today. TL-T1 started us off, and this was a lot closer than it should have been. TL actually set quite a pace and set the tempo in the early game. However, T1 and their bot lane was just simply superior, and that's not a big shock, as TL's is one of the worst in the tournament. Zayu 6-3-4, 31% of damage in top lane, led the way on Jace. Keria 1-2-12 was my MVP on Renata. Yeon 2-2-3, 30% of damage in the loss. So, I had to give the bot lane the MVP for T1. I thought Pyosik outpaced Owner big time. His Lee Sin was disgusting today. I thought Summit honestly played better than Zeus up until the late game. And then mid, Faker was definitely better than APA, but APA had moments, right? So in the end, it was never a contest in the bot side. T1 were just like gapping them by 40 CS. That was where the gold lead was. And then when team fights began, T1 just took over. The Ash arrows were on point from Guma. Renata ultis by Keria also set, honestly, turned the game around. Kind of speed running today, this video, but in my opinion, it really did come down to that. Because Pyosik was on a mission. He was on a mission in Korea against T1 to say, hey, I am still LCK level. I may have played absolutely terrible in the LCS, but I am a defending world champion at this event, and he looked like one. I don't think anybody can take that away from him. Whether he wins or loses, that's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that he did put on a good performance on the Lee Sin, and in the end, it wasn't enough. C9 and Mad Lions. C9 wins. Sven was my MVP on the Alistar. Blabber 008, 36% of damage on Talia. Berserker 501 at 80 carry. Karzi 120, 33% of damage. Opposite him on Ezreal. Sven was MVP going topside, making things happen ahead of Hilly. Hilly simply did nothing, and then Karzi and Hilly do not get ahead of Berserker in the 1v2, so there is no offset there as Sven takes multiple trips to the top lane, actually. Those kind of roams are unpredictable, but at the same time, you need to offset it. There needs to be something in return, and there wasn't. And so in the end, Sven gets that MVP for that. Honestly, I know Blabber was up there also with Fudge, but in the end, a lot of it had to do with Sven. And then Talia ahead of Elyoya. Elyoya did not look very good. Niski did not look very good. I think he got solo killed by Fudge at one point. And Karzi can only do so much. A lot of people want to give him heat for picking Ezreal, but actually oftentimes the teams with the Ezreal, the Ez is dealing the most damage. So I'm not going to blame him for the loss. I really would say Hilly is partially at fault. I would say that Elyoya as well. He needs to do more. Hell, Chasey into Fudge. You think Chasey would have done more? Because Elyoya did, I guess I'll give Elyoya some credit. He did go top once, I think off the rip. But Chasey was not able to hold that lead. A very low kill game. This was boring as hell. 7 kills through 25 minutes, I believe. Just very, very dry. But C9 win. Genji Gam, definitely the most lopsided game on the board today. Peanut was my MVP on Vi. I thought he was all over the place. He was everywhere. Chovy 6012, 28% of damage on Ari. Delight went deathless, getting 16 assists on Alistar. Kiea 371, 32% of damage in top lane. I think on a Jax, may have been a Kesante. Either or, he played well off the first dive, he outplayed the dive, but then otherwise it was just meh, to say the very least out of Gam. They were just chased all around the rift. Genji just playing with their food. The quickest game, the most lopsided game. There isn't even really a lot to say. Chovy's Ari was right there with Peanut's Vi as team fights occurred. Delight joining on in, and then Pays cleans up with a couple kills, and Doran, honest to God, I'm not even thinking of Doran in this game because he wasn't even necessary as an integral part. Gam just looked like crap. I will say Katie kept up with Chovy and Lane, which is a surprise. Definitely didn't expect that, given how Chovy's CS numbers usually are. But, I mean, it is what it is. JDG BDS, JDG win. Kanavi was my MVP. He had the highest KP, I believe 100% on the J4. Ruler 406, 34% of damage, missing 0011, so the bot lane 4017. Nuke 231, 32% of damage in the loss. BDS's bot lane did not show up today. Crowny and Labrov looked like one of the worst bot lanes in this event. And I know Ruler and Missing are excellent, but they couldn't even deal damage. I think Crowny ended up with below 20%, maybe even 16% of the team's damage, which is not enough out of your 80 carry. It just simply isn't. I do understand that BDS did spend time on top side, but they got nothing out of it. You're going into an Ornn. They give Adam Garen. They go topside. Even 369 calls him out afterwards and says, hey, I did get outplayed by the gank, but he needed the gank, frankly. So, it's kind of crazy that an Ornn is proxying a wave. I don't know how the Ornn-Garen matchup is supposed to go, but that is a look from JDG, right? So, Kanavi also on a facilitator, freeing up Knight. I believe he was on the Ari as well in this one. It freed them up. And it makes you wonder if they're scrimming LNG, because LNG also pulled out the J4. We saw a few J4s today. So early game BDS keep up, going topside, trying to get an Ornn behind. JDG are like, okay, well, we're just going to stall this out for a minute and then just beat you in team fights, and that's what they did. BDS get credit for keeping pace through laning phase, but when push comes to shove, you just simply couldn't match it. But Nuke on the Cassiopeia, he played better than expected. G2D plus Hansama MVP on Draven. Yike 239, 34% of damage on Maokai. Mickey 0112 on Renata. Kana 451, 32% of damage in the loss on Jace. That is why D plus lost. This is the only game I got to watch live. I go into work at 8 in the morning, so my time, this game was on at like 6 when I was getting ready to leave for work. And immediately, it's just like, why do we have Kana on Jace and Canyon on Rel? I know you cannot swap those two champions. I understand that Rel cannot play top and Jace cannot play the jungle. But by doing that, you're saying, hey, Kana, we're going to have you carry. We're going to have you deal the damage, make things happen. Deal the damage, finish things off. We're going to put the eggs in your basket. Is essentially what that is. Versus Canyon on the Rel, you have to make things happen. And Canyon is very good. One of the greatest, if not he's in the conversation. And G2's strongest player is Yike. Their strongest part is the mid-jungle duo. So if I'm thinking from D plus perspective, I would put Canyon on something where he can go after Yike. He can match Yike. He can put Yike behind. And if that ends up being the case, then G2 are behind. Now, Hans ends up getting a couple kills on the Draven, and if that happens, GG, and that's what happened. Yike goes bot side, ensures that Draven gets a couple kills. Caps did get around a bit, and also kept up with Showmaker, which is a thing. Showmaker isn't a super dominant mid. He's just very good alongside Canyon. That duo, obviously, their name supersedes them. They lost in draft. And honestly, they also got out macro. G2 are taking objectives. They got ahead on objectives. Now, obviously, D plus did take 2 Barons. They stole one and they snuck one, which is nice from a macro perspective. But the fact of the matter is they were blowing Drakes. And this is the problem with D plus. It has been the problem all year, all summer. And that's why Bible even got a chance to play in summer. There is some flux with that bot lane. Like in my bot duo video I did a couple days ago, I mentioned that's why D pluses were so low, and people didn't want to listen to the video before commenting in the comment section because that's what a degenerate does. But they don't have a straight up support. They went Kellen, they went Bible, a little back and forth, and then it's like, okay, well, then they swapped coaches, which isn't great in summer, right? And are they splitting scrims? I don't know. Do you put Bible in if he hasn't scrimmed at all? That's a tough call to make. But G2 were the better team for sure. NRG Weibo. This is not a surprise. Weibo win. Way MVP on the Poppy. The Shy 013. 35% of damage on Rumble, which I think is quite interesting to have 35% of damage and 25 KP. Talk about laying it on thick when it didn't really end up in anything. Light 704 in I think on a Kesa. Might have been Zaya. Kesa and Zaya are the two picks right now. Contracts 131, 30% of damage in the loss. By the way, I saw Varus today. Varus stinks. If we're getting into Varus territory, this is we're looking at last year. So contracts 131, 30% damage on Talia. Weibo get ahead early. It's not as big of a blowout like this one, but they were ahead early, and it was because of Weiwei, his Poppy all over the place, making sure top side was ahead, making sure bot side was ahead, and Jahu also joining in and setting the pace. Now that mid-jungle duo, that's their job. They're facilitators. They make things happen. NRG allowed that to occur. NRG's strongest suit also contracts Palafox, but they put them on carries, Talia and Jace. And Palafox, they already were down by quite a bit when they finally got one kill, which they traded for like Baron, I believe. So that just kind of goes to show you how lopsided this game was, that Weibo were like, okay, we'll take the kill. We'll just take the objective. Way on point, getting the team ahead. Xiaohu on the Azir, following it up, and Light cleaning things up after the game was already over at 80 carry. Fnatic LNG, Scout was my MVP on Azir, 1107, 38% of damage. Gala 815 at 80 carry. Razork 561, 32% of damage in the loss. I believe he played Talia as well. So, not surprised. Humanoid did keep up with Scout, which isn't a surprise either in the laning phase. But Scout was impactful through the mid to late game. Disgusting. His shuffles were very good. Zika also doing very well topside. Tarzan very timely on counter ganking Razork, and that was huge, honestly, because Fnatic were trying to go after Zika pretty hard. J4 being more of a Tarzan pick than a Kanavi pick, so seeing Tarzan on that was probably a good fit for him. Bot side, like Noah Trimby in the light hung, like this early game was just kind of whatever, but in the mid to late game, LNG were the better team. KT BLG finish us off. BLG win. Bin was my MVP. Elk 6-2-12, 31% of damage on a Zaya. Bin 5-1-10 on K-Sante. Aiming 5-5-3, 32% of damage in the loss. This game was close. KT had a lead until the final team fight where they lost. Messy. Over pursuing. Elk, very good ulti. I think this was after Bin may have had his one death. After he really baited. And KT played Zac. I'm an advocate for playing weird stuff. But if you're GAM, you play weird stuff. Or you're NRG, or hell, G2, that's just G2 scrim on stage with that stuff all year, so that's okay. KT played Zac a couple times, I guess, but this was not the time for that. I think if KT play a real jungler, they win. It was close with a Zac, so if they had played something more meta that was more useful, I think that they probably win, because Keen on the Aatrox also found good moments to make things happen. And when you have BLG playing Yagao, I'm playing Jace, and giving it to Yagao instead of Bin, it's so this is what we're going to do here. Okay. And I guess this matchup is fair to do that. BDD and Yagao very similar. I do think BDD is better than Yagao, but today Yagao did get the W. Aiming in Lehends, I would like them to do more. I do still think they're better than Alkanon. This best of one is not going to change that. It's just I'm a big Bin fan. I think Bin's the best top laner in the world, and today he showed up. And if that is going to be the case, he is better than Keen in that regard. So that kind of is what it is. Shun is better than Cuz. not a surprise. Sean outpaces Cuz. Bot side, Elk and Aiming. I think I had Elk above Aiming. Now I have Lahens way above On. But in the end, Elk and Bin show up. They win the game. So, and when you put Sean on something useful, I think he played Maokai. And Cuz on Zach, that's another gap created. So, BLG's win, not a super big surprise given the drafts and who showed up and who didn't. And because of that, I mean, I think that was the one I got wrong. I got these two wrong. I thought D Plus would win, and I thought KT would win. And given that both teams had a chance to win, I'll take it. Sneak peek for tomorrow. I'm not going as in depth trying to get this video out for you. So NRG TL, they played 11 times this summer. NRG won 8 of them. NRG winning both best of 5s and winning both best of 1s. NRG have beaten every LCS team with a winning record. But based off of this, I would say that TL did play better than NRG, but we'll see. You got to weigh that. Like, they've played each other 11 times. They've probably scrimmed each other so many times. Like, I would say they have 25 games against each other over the last, 4 months. So, they know each other better than even we could possibly know them. C9 LNG, last time they even overlapped. So, they haven't played as orgs. Worlds 2019, Tarzan and Blabber played against each other once. Tarzan on Griffin. Blabber at Worlds 2019 was splitting with Sven Garen. Tarzan would win going 4-3-10, 14% of damage on Lee Sin. Blabber 3-6-3, 18% of damage on an Elise. Blabber did have a gold lead after that, 300 gold, 3 CS, 525 XP in the early game in that one. Mad Lions BDS, they've only played each other once. BDS would win that, best of 1 in summer. It is another best of 1 here. And in that game, something that stuck out to me, Carzy had 50% of the team's damage and double the amount of damage as Crowny. So that was one of those games where Carzy just absolutely carried in a loss. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'll tell you if they show up the same way as they did today. And Carzy showing up and Crowny is not. I mean, is that going to be the similar? Actually, the more we think about it, because that happened last time, is that going to make a difference? We'll see. Because Adam's playing outstanding. Obviously, Sheo's helping him, but getting Adam in a good position is good for BDS. However, we have to keep in mind it's similar to the NRGTL situation. I'm sure they've scrimmed a lot. Fnatic and GAM, they played at Worlds 2017. Fnatic would win 2 of the 3 games, best of 1s against Gigabyte Marines. Levi was on GAM at that time. Yes, he's been on GAM that long. And he went 8, 10, and 11 across those 3 games. So, I think that was into, who is that into for those 3 games? I looked at the rosters. Oh, shoot. Who was in the jungle for Fnatic in 20... obviously it was before Broxa, so I don't even remember. I'm sure someone in the comments will say. Gen G T1, obviously they've played against each other. Gen G winning 8 of the 11 games that I'm counting. Technically, if you count the 2 Poby games, they're 10-3, but I'm not counting those. So, Gen G have T1's number, but it is a best of 1. And if you look at not the finals, but the other best of 5, it did go to 5 games, and T1 did have a lead in that series. So can T1 win a best of 1 against Gen G? Yes, based on how they played there. It's a little murky. G2 Weibo, they played, so when Weibo was Suning, before they rebranded, they played at Worlds 2020 in group stage. Suning would win 2 of the 3 games. None of the Suning players remain on that team. However, Bin for BLG was on that team at the time. Caps would go 9, 11, and 20 in mid lane. That was against Angel across those 3 games. Mickey X 2, 14, and 29. Mickey was into Sword Art. JDG, BLG, they've played each other 5 times in summer. JDG winning all 5. Winning the best of 3 2-0, and then winning the best of 5 3-0 in the playoffs. Of course, they have played each other all year long, and BLG has lost every time to JDG. best of 5 wise. This is a best of 1, so I guess BLG could win it, and then people are going to be like, oh my god, look at how good BLG is, and it's going to be like, yeah, they won a best of 1. That's not going to erase this, and it's not going to erase the other 15 games they lost to them when they've only won a few. So, getting hyperbolic, getting excited about one game is just the league community in a nutshell. D plus KT have won all 4 games against D plus this split. I probably should have looked to see if 2 of those games were against Bible, but then again, Bible could play tomorrow. Wouldn't shock me. KT are better in top and bot side. However, D plus Canyon Showmaker are excellent. So if D plus decide to put Canyon on a carry, I could see him 1v9ing that game for sure. I think everybody could. We saw Canyon do it last Worlds. However, if they draft him a Rel or an Ivern or something like that, I don't see it. So, yeah, that's it for the roundup. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a YouTube supporter if you want my predictions. And hope to see you again tomorrow.